In my last few episodes, we discussed how the Nordic Navy is expanding, followed by how the Nordic Air Force will be one of the most potent air forces in Europe. Time has come to discuss the branch of the military where I spent most of my life, the Army. The Nordic countries, Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Sweden, are undergoing significant changes in their land forces. The evolving security landscape has pushed these nations to bolster their ground troops, modernize equipment, and enhance regional cooperation. In today's video, we'll dive into each nation's land forces, exploring the new tanks, artillery systems, and armored vehicles being added to their ranks. We'll also look at the new role Finland is set to play as the command hub for Nordic land force coordination. Let's get started. The Nordic countries have traditionally focused on peacekeeping and home defense, but recent global events have shifted their priorities, prompting them to expand and upgrade their land forces. This includes the acquisition of modern tanks, artillery, and other ground assets to prepare for any potential regional threats. We're going to start by looking at what the Nordic nations are doing in the artillery department. And in that regard, I'll start with Sweden. Sweden currently operates 26 Archer artillery systems and have placed an order for an additional 48 systems. When we look at the overall success of the Archer in Ukraine, there is no wonder why Sweden has gone for such an upgrade to the inventory of their homemade system. Furthermore, there is noise going around that Sweden is also seriously considering acquiring the Chunmoo GMLRS system from South Korea to fill the inventory of its up-and-coming rocket artillery regiment. All in all, Sweden will go from only 2 army units of artillery to 8 in total, a staggering increase of 300%. Finland, which holds Europe's largest artillery reserve, has already incorporated the K9 Thunder into its arsenal, alongside a substantial lineup of domestically produced towed howitzers and M270 GMLRS systems. Unlike other Nordic countries, Finland doesn't face the same urgency to expand its artillery capabilities, but it has signaled plans to acquire an additional 20 self-propelled systems, specifically for mobile coastal defense. Speculation suggests this could involve the Archer or Caesar systems, though I anticipate that Finland may pursue its own Patria self-propelled gun, currently in development. While details on this new gun are limited, Finland's expertise in artillery and Sisu's reliable truck platform suggest this artillery piece could rival the Archer, establishing itself among the top self-propelled guns on the market. Norway, like Finland, currently operates the K9 Thunder and received its last pieces this year, bringing its total up to 28. Like Sweden, Norway is currently considering several different GMLRS systems and will likely pick one by 2027. My bet is that they will go for the aforementioned Chunmoo, as the South Koreans can deliver much quicker than anyone else, and because Norway already has South Korean SPGs in their arsenal. Denmark recently donated its entire Caesar artillery fleet to Ukraine, demonstrating strong support but leaving a gap in its own defense capabilities. To replace the Caesar, Denmark opted for the Israeli Pulse and Atmos systems. However, delivery delays for the new systems have sparked concern within the Danish government, with some officials now regretting the switch. The Caesar had proven reliable for Denmark's needs, and there are growing doubts about whether the new systems can meet Denmark's operational requirements in the same way. The new Israeli systems will take as long as over a year to integrate, while in example a NATO system like the Archer or PCH 2000 would only take a few months. That said, I don't doubt the quality of the Atmos and Pulse, though there seems to have been quite a lot of controversy around the acquisition process in the Danish Department of Defense. In my humble opinion, Denmark has 2 neighbors who are known for making incredible systems in Sweden and Germany that would plug seamlessly into their defense network, so I'm not too sure if we've heard the last of the Danish artillery saga. Apart from artillery, tanks are likely the category of the land armies in the Nordics that are getting the biggest boost. Sweden will take its already capable Stridsvagn 122 and upgrade them to the 123 variant. These will get an upgraded gun, new optics, completely new electronics, active armor, night sights, electronic warfare modules, and much more. To start, Sweden will upgrade 44 of its 122s to the new model, while the rest of the older fleet will get smaller upgrades. Not wanting to be any worse than their neighbor Sweden, Norway is taking delivery of 54 totally new Leopard 2A8 which is scheduled to be delivered from the start of 2026. This new Norwegian Leopard 2 version is supposedly the most advanced of them all, with active trophy drone countermeasures, a 3-layered reactive armor system, integrated remote turret systems, and inertial and GPS navigation. Better yet for Norway, they've managed to get Germany to let them assemble and improve at least 37 of the 54 tanks themselves, meaning that we're likely looking at the start of a Norwegian program, similar to that seen with the Swedish Stridsvagn program. Rytec, a Norwegian company, will also be a Nordics maintenance hub for new Leopard 2s delivered to their neighbors. Denmark and Finland have no immediate plans to upgrade their tank fleets. Denmark's Leopard 2 tanks are relatively new, having been upgraded to the 2A7 variant between 2019 and 2023. Finland, meanwhile, appears more focused on enhancing its armored fighting vehicle capabilities, particularly with the Patria AMV, which combines features of both a tank and a lighter, more versatile vehicle, likely as an effect of how main battle tanks have been far too easy to destroy with simple drones in Ukraine. One of the massive lessons from the war in Ukraine is that a versatile armored fighting vehicle is more productive in combat than a tank. The speed, agility, and troop transportation ability that an AFV offers means that these systems will likely become the backbone of any modern army moving forward. Luckily for the Nordics, Sweden produces one of the best AFVs pound for pound in the world. Sweden is reported to have over 400 CV90s in their arsenal and have recently ordered another 50 from BAE Hägglunds. Norway finished taking delivery of their upgraded CV90s in 2023, having the first version of the AFV with rubber tracks, making it more versatile on snow and mud. They've got a total of 144 CV90 Mark III, complete with their own homemade remote turret system, Protector RWS. Denmark has done a similar thing to Sweden and ordered 115 new CV90, taking the total orders for CV90s to 165. And if you include Norway's recently delivered versions in this, just the Scandinavian countries has a total of 309 modern CV90 between them. If you add Sweden's older models, this number is closer to 700. For Finland, it's a bit of a mixed bag on the APC and AFV front. Finland famously makes the very capable Patria Pasi and have recently ordered another 40 Patria 6x6 armored personnel carriers, while also supplementing their already quite vast inventory with both mortar variants, tank killer versions, and Protolab Misu APCs. On the air defense front, there is some real heavy investment and movement. Norway recently ordered 4 new batteries of NASAMS. Sweden is upping its order of Patriot batteries, and Finland is taking delivery of their high-altitude Patriot competitor, the David Sling, in the coming years. Denmark, on the other hand, has allocated 13 billion Danish kroner for improved air defense, without alluding to any specific system. But it is believed that Norway's NASAMS system is at the top of the list. Now, I could probably go on with mentioning gear and equipment upgrades all day, but the point of this was to show you that there is a massive will for investment among the Nordic countries. And all in all, they're putting forward substantial amounts of money to increase the capabilities in all their armed branches. All nations will be well over the 2% GDP goal in NATO by next year, and for especially Denmark and Norway, the budgets are increasing by a huge amount. All this new equipment is essential, but it also requires skilled personnel to operate it. So let's take a look at how the Nordic countries are increasing their personnel to meet these growing demands. 5 months ago, I did a total overview of the Nordic land armies, and as you can see by the personnel totals back then, there was around 43,000 active personnel across all 4 nations. Moving on to 2030, let's see what the totals are set to be by using the newly unveiled plans and budget increases from all 4 nations. I've put 2030 because I expect that it'll take some years to form the new companies and units, though in some cases these positions should be filled by 2026. Denmark is set to increase the personnel of its army by an undisclosed amount. It will reinforce and recruit for its infamous 1st Brigade to a full NATO heavy battalion size of 6,000 men, and the light infantry battalion is getting reinforced with armored vehicles. Denmark is also adding several anti-air units when their systems arrive. So all in all, I expect an increase of something along the lines of 5,000 active personnel. Yearly conscription will increase to 7,500, and as a result of a larger army comes a bigger reserve pool. 5 years of a bigger army should increase the pool of reserves by about 3,000 a year. The Home Guard will likely remain more or less the same. Sweden has the largest population pool out of the 4 Nordic nations and are planning to expand its armed forces by 27,000. And when you look at how the current personnel is spread across the 3 branches of military, the army should get something along the lines of 15 to 20,000 of those. I expect that the active personnel in Sweden will increase the most out of the 4, as they also had the lowest amount of active soldiers per capita in 2023. Considering the army should have around 17,000 personnel to allocate, there should be an increase of something like 10,000 active soldiers. By 2030, Sweden expects to have 10,000 yearly conscripts, and at least 70% of those will be conscripted to the army. As with Denmark, with a bigger army comes a bigger reserve. Considering that the army is increasing by over 100%, the active reserve should also increase by that amount after 5 years of heavy recruitment. 20,000 is likely too low, but it's better to be realistic. The Home Guard will likely stay more or less the same, though its officer corps is likely to grow due to the increase in army reserves. Norway is working heavily on both its Air Force and Navy, and will see a massive increase in personnel in these sectors. However, they are also increasing their army by a decent amount, with a big focus on a Finnish-style system of active reserve battalions. As a whole, the Norwegian defense is increasing their active standing military by around 5,000 soldiers, and it is estimated that around 3,000 of these will go to the army. That may not sound like much, but it is in the active reserve where Norway will do its heaviest investment. Yearly conscription will increase by around 4,000 for the Norwegian army, and with the plans for a whole new battalion-level reserve unit to be stationed in the south of Norway, the active reserve from Norway will likely increase by around 12,000 personnel. Norway is also increasing its Home Guard by around 5,000 soldiers. Finland has one of the largest armies in Europe and is not making any large changes to their personnel, apart from more soldiers likely being stationed at forward presence bases along Russia's borders with NATO in Europe. But as these numbers show, Finland really does not need to increase its personnel. To summarize, as we can see, the active personnel in the Nordic armies will increase by around 40% by 2030, with growth also present in all other categories. To compare it with some other European nations, we can see that the Nordics are starting to become a bit of a powerhouse when it comes to active and conscripted personnel. Most European states do not have a Home Guard and reserve system like the Nordics. So all in all, these figures show that the Nordics are taking their responsibilities very seriously. Now, let's move on to how this million-strong army will be working as a unit under the NORDEFCO and NATO banners. One of the strongest aspects of the Nordic military expansion is the growing emphasis on combined land training exercises, which prepare their ground forces for joint operations. Given the unique climate and terrain of the Nordic region, these countries have long prepared their forces for extreme conditions. However, recent large-scale exercises have taken this training to a new level. Exercises like Arctic Challenge and Cold Response bring thousands of troops together across the region, simulating realistic combat scenarios that involve ground forces working in various terrains. These drills allow Nordic land forces to practice coordinated defense and improve their tactical interoperability. By focusing on cross-border exercises, the Nordic ground forces are better prepared for joint operations across a range of environments, be it forests, mountainous regions, or Arctic conditions. These exercises are crucial for building trust, refining joint tactics, and ensuring all forces operate effectively together. With Finland's recent NATO membership, a strategic shift is taking place in the Nordic defense structure. Positioned close to Russia, Finland's extensive experience with rapid mobilization and border defense makes it an ideal location for a Nordic command center for land operations. Once operational, this command center will allow for streamlined coordination between Nordic ground forces, enhancing response times and decision-making for joint operations. The center will act as a hub for strategic planning and operational guidance, enabling the Nordic countries to present a unified front against potential threats. Its location is still up for debate, but it seems likely that it'll be based within the area where Norway, Sweden, and Finland shares a border. So, you may ask, why on earth is this Nordic cooperation on land defense important on a global scale? The Nordic countries are strategically located near Russia and the Arctic, an area of growing military and economic interest. By combining their ground forces and training extensively for various terrains, these countries create a significant defensive line, securing Europe's northern flank and contributing to NATO's collective security framework. In summary, the Nordic countries are undergoing a transformation in their land forces, expanding personnel, modernizing equipment, enhancing joint training, and establishing Finland as the command hub for regional ground operations. As they prepare for an uncertain future, the Nordic countries demonstrate unity and resilience, setting a new benchmark for regional cooperation and readiness in Europe. As always, I'd love it if you let me know what you thought about this video in the comments. And yes, I am aware that I left out a bunch of new equipment that are due to arrive within a few years. Have a good week, folks.